I couldn't believe my eyes when I walked into the courtroom that morning. There she was, my ex-wife, sitting confidently on the bench with her hands resting over her stomach. At first, I didn't notice anything different, but when she stood up, that's when I saw it, her baby bump. For a second, my mind went blank. We had been separated for almost a year now, fighting over money and property, and today was supposed to be the final divorce hearing. I had spent sleepless nights thinking about how to move on with my life, how to finally free myself from her manipulative ways. But seeing her pregnant like that, acting like nothing had happened, threw me off completely. She gave me a smug smile as if she already knew she had won. Her lawyer whispered something to her, and she nodded confidently. My chest tightened. I knew her well enough to understand she was up to something big. For years, she made every decision about herself, where we lived, what we spent on, how I should act around her friends and family. In the end, her betrayal broke me so badly that I barely had the courage to file for divorce. But I did, because I couldn't take her lies and control anymore. As I sat across from her, my mind was spinning with questions. Whose baby was that? Was it even mine? Why hadn't she told me before? But looking at her smirk, I realized this pregnancy wasn't just about a baby. It was about money, like everything else had always been with her. The judge entered, and everyone stood up. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear the clerk calling out our names. She clutched her belly and sighed dramatically, earning a few sympathetic looks from people sitting behind us. That's when it hit me. She was trying to paint herself as a helpless pregnant woman who needed financial security. Maybe she thought the judge would force me to pay her more alimony because of it. Throughout our marriage, she always played the victim card when she wanted something, whether it was from me, her parents, or our friends. And now she was doing it in court, thinking her baby bump would automatically guarantee her a bigger payout. Part of me felt angry that she was using an unborn child like this, but part of me felt sorry too. Because deep down, I knew her life was built around lies, and one day it would all fall apart. When the judge finally asked her to state her claims, she straightened her back and started her usual emotional speech about how hard life was for her, how she needed support, and how I had abandoned her when she needed me the most. I sat there quietly, letting her finish, knowing there was no point interrupting her performance. But then, just as she was about to wipe her fake tears, the judge looked directly at her and asked one simple question. The entire room went silent. Even she froze, her eyes darting around nervously. In that moment, I realized everything was about to change, because the judge's question was something she never expected, and it was about to destroy the plan she thought was foolproof. The judge leaned forward slightly and asked her, "When exactly is your due date?" His voice was calm but firm, the kind that makes you feel like you can't hide anything. I watched as her confident smile faded for a split second. She shifted in her seat, cleared her throat, and glanced at her lawyer, who nodded at her to answer. She muttered a date, but even I could hear the uncertainty in her tone. The judge scribbled something down and nodded without saying a word. The room stayed silent, and I could feel every eye on her. For the first time, I saw fear in her expression, and it made my heart race. Memories started flooding back to me as I sat there, staring at her nervous face. I remembered how she used to plan everything, down to the smallest details. Even our wedding was more of her personal showcase than a celebration of love. She picked the venue, the food, even what color tie I should wear. At the time, I thought she was just organized, but later I realized she wanted control. That was her power. The day I found out she was cheating on me was the day all her carefully constructed lies fell apart. She cried and begged me not to leave, telling me she made a mistake and that she loved only me. But those words were empty. I had seen her messages, I had heard her talking to him, telling him she was only with me for stability. Now, seeing her sitting there pregnant, trying to use that baby as another way to get what she wanted, made me feel sick to my stomach. My lawyer leaned in and whispered, "Stay calm. The judge seems to be catching on." I nodded but kept my eyes on her. I knew this wasn't over. She was smart, and she always had backup plans. That's what scared me the most. The judge asked her a few more questions about her finances and living situation. Each answer she gave sounded practiced, as if she had been preparing for this day for months. I noticed the way she touched her belly each time she answered, like she was reminding everyone in the room that she was pregnant, hoping they would feel sorry for her. But all I felt was anger. Anger that she would drag an innocent life into her games. Anger that she was still trying to control me, even after everything she did. Then my mind started spinning with questions again. If the baby wasn't mine, whose was it? Was it the same man she had been seeing when we were together? Did he even know about the baby? Or was she hiding it from him too, planning to put the responsibility on me because it was easier? Every possibility made me feel colder inside. But I didn't let it show. I sat there silently, clenching my hands under the table, trying to focus on what the judge was saying. She wiped her eyes dramatically again, sniffing loudly, and her lawyer handed her a tissue. The judge remained calm and continued looking through the documents in front of him. The suspense in the room grew heavier with every passing second. No one spoke. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Deep down, I knew the judge's next words could change everything. And judging by the way she was starting to fidget in her seat, she knew it too. The judge finally looked up from the papers and asked her lawyer to confirm when exactly she had found out about the pregnancy. Her lawyer hesitated, flipping through documents, and then whispered something to her. She cleared her throat and answered softly, saying she discovered it about 3 months ago. The judge nodded but didn't react. He just wrote something down again. I saw her breathing quicken as she tightened her grip on the tissue in her hand. For the first time, I saw genuine fear cross her face, and it almost made me pity her. Almost. I couldn't help but think back to when we first met. She was charming, sweet, and had a smile that could convince anyone of her innocence. That was how she pulled me in. My friends used to warn me, saying she was too good to be true, but I thought they were just jealous. Little did I know, she was already planning her future with me in a way that benefited only her. Even when we bought our first house, she wanted it under her name alone, convincing me it was for tax benefits. I believed her back then. But now, sitting in this courtroom, all those moments felt like carefully laid traps. As the judge continued questioning her, my lawyer began preparing me for what was coming. He whispered, "If she insists this baby is yours, we'll request a paternity test immediately. Stay calm. Don't let her words push you into saying something emotional in court." I nodded without taking my eyes off her. The idea that she might actually try to pin the baby on me terrified me. I had already planned my life without her. I didn't want to be pulled back into her web of lies and manipulations. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the table. She quickly turned it upside down, but not before I saw the name flashing on the screen. It wasn't a woman's name. It was a man's. My chest tightened as my thoughts raced. Was that him? Was he the real father? Did he know she was sitting here trying to get money out of me for his child? A wave of anger rose in me so strong that I had to clench my jaw to stop myself from saying anything. The judge paused and looked at both of us. "We'll take a short break," he said. The clerk called for recess, and she immediately grabbed her phone and walked out with her lawyer. I watched her go, wondering what her next move was going to be. Deep down, I knew she wasn't going to give up easily. She never did. And as I sat there alone, the silence around me felt heavy with questions I still didn't have answers to. I sat there in the empty courtroom, my mind running wild with thoughts I couldn't control. I kept replaying the moment her phone lit up with that man's name. It felt like confirmation of what I had suspected all along, but it also raised more questions. Who was he to her now? Did he know she was pregnant? Did he know she was here trying to make me pay for a baby that might not even be mine? My lawyer returned with a coffee in hand and placed it in front of me. I nodded in thanks, even though my stomach was too twisted to drink anything. When she walked back into the courtroom, she looked calmer, like she had come up with a new plan during the break. Her lawyer whispered something to her again, and she nodded quickly before sitting down across from me. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I saw that same cold determination I used to see when she wanted something badly. It made my chest tighten with anger and fear. She was about to pull something I wasn't ready for, and I could feel it in my bones. The judge returned and asked us to stand. As we sat back down, he cleared his throat and looked at her with narrowed eyes. Before we proceed with alimony discussions, I have one question that needs a clear and truthful answer, he said, his voice echoing through the silent room. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The judge continued, "Who is the father of this child?" The room fell completely silent. Even the clicking of the court clerk's pen stopped. Her eyes darted around the room, her mouth opening slightly but no words coming out. Her lawyer quickly spoke up, saying that they believed I was the father since we were married until recently. But the judge raised his hand to silence him. "I am asking her," he said firmly. She swallowed hard, her hands trembling as they rested on her belly. She opened her mouth again, then closed it. For the first time, she looked completely lost. The judge waited patiently, staring at her with eyes that demanded honesty. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. My palms felt sweaty as I gripped the edge of the table. Finally, she spoke, her voice so soft that everyone had to lean in to hear her. I don't know for sure," she whispered. The words hit me like a slap. I stared at her, trying to read her face, but she refused to look at me. The judge nodded calmly, as if he expected that answer, and wrote something down again. "Very well," he said. "Before any decisions are made, a paternity test will be required." I could see her entire body tense up, and she finally looked at me, her eyes filled with panic. In that moment, I saw her mask slip. For a second, she wasn't the confident woman trying to manipulate the system. She was just a scared person who realized her lies were falling apart right in front of everyone. But before anyone could say anything else, her phone buzzed again. She reached for it without thinking, and this time the screen was facing the judge. He raised his eyebrow as he read the name flashing across it, then looked back at her with curiosity. My heart pounded faster, because I knew whatever happened next would change everything forever. The tension in the room felt so thick that it was hard to even breathe. She quickly turned her phone upside down, but it was too late. The judge had seen the name. He looked at her with sharp eyes and said calmly, "Miss, please place your phone on the table, screen up, for the remainder of this hearing." Her hands trembled as she followed his instruction. I could see her trying to compose herself, but her breathing was fast and shallow. My lawyer leaned closer to me and whispered, "This is getting interesting. Stay calm and let her expose herself." The judge glanced at the name flashing on her phone before it went dark again. Then he looked at her and asked, "Is that the father of your child?" She shook her head quickly, a little too quickly, and said, "No, he's just a friend. He knows I'm going through a hard time." Her voice was shaky, and her lawyer placed a hand on her arm to steady her. The judge remained silent, tapping his pen lightly on his notes. The sound echoed in the quiet room, making her flinch each time. Suddenly, he turned to me and asked, "Would you be willing to cover the cost of a paternity test to settle this matter immediately?" My lawyer answered for me, saying, "Yes, Your Honor. We want to ensure the truth is clear before any financial decisions are made." I nodded in agreement, not taking my eyes off her. She looked down at her hands, refusing to meet my gaze. But before the judge could continue, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. The name on the screen appeared in bold letters, and I felt my chest tighten. It was the same man's name as before. The judge raised his eyebrow. "You can answer it if you need to," he said calmly, almost like he was daring her. Her eyes widened, and she shook her head frantically. "No, it's okay," she whispered, pressing decline with shaking fingers. Then the second twist hit like a storm. The courtroom door opened, and a man walked in, looking around nervously before spotting her. He was tall, wearing jeans and a plain shirt, his hair messy like he had been rushing. "I'm sorry, Your Honor," he said breathlessly. "I know I shouldn't interrupt, but I need to speak to her right now." Everyone turned to look at him. The judge frowned and asked, "And you are?" The man hesitated, glancing at her with guilt all over his face. Then he looked at me and back at her before sighing deeply. I'm the father of her baby," he said, his voice breaking slightly. My stomach dropped. A cold wave washed over me as I saw her slump back into her chair, her face pale as a sheet. Whispers filled the courtroom. Her lawyer buried his face in his hands, clearly defeated. The judge stayed silent for a moment before clearing his throat. "Thank you for your honesty. Please wait outside until I call you back in," he said firmly. The man nodded and left the room, closing the door softly behind him. She sat there frozen, staring at the table, her eyes glassy with tears that refused to fall. I didn't say anything. My mind was numb with shock, anger, and relief all at the same time. But I knew this wasn't over yet. She still had plans hidden somewhere, and I could see it in the way her fingers twitched against her phone. Whatever came next, I could feel it was going to be even darker than before. The room stayed silent long after the man left. She sat there shaking, her eyes fixed on the judge's table. Finally, the judge cleared his throat and said, "Thank you for your honesty today. It seems the question of paternity is no longer in doubt." Her lawyer tried to say something, but she raised her hand weakly to stop him. Tears finally rolled down her cheeks, and for the first time in a long time, I saw her without any mask or act. Just a woman who realized her entire plan had collapsed in front of everyone. The judge turned to me. "Given the revelation that you are not the father, there will be no further discussions of financial support related to this pregnancy. We will finalize the divorce today without additional alimony considerations, as per the prior agreement." I nodded, feeling a heavy weight lift from my chest. My lawyer placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, whispering, "It's over now." She buried her face in her hands and cried silently. I should have felt happy, but a strange sadness filled me instead. We had wasted so many years trapped in lies and games. Seeing her like that, broken and exposed, felt like watching the final chapter of a tragic story I never wanted to be part of. The judge signed the final divorce papers and asked both our lawyers to approach for signatures. As I signed my name, I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. It was like breathing fresh air after being locked in a room full of smoke. Just as the judge was about to dismiss us, her phone buzzed again on the table. She didn't move. Curious, I glanced at the screen. It was an email notification. The judge noticed too and said, "Miss, you have another notification." Slowly, with trembling fingers, she picked up her phone and opened it. Her eyes widened as she read the email. She clutched the phone to her chest and began sobbing harder. I watched her, confused, until she whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. He's leaving me. He said he can't raise this baby with me after what I've done." Her whole body shook as she cried. The final twist cut deeper than I expected. The man who walked in to claim the baby had just emailed her saying he was gone. She lost everything in one day: her marriage, her plan for easy money, and the only person she thought would stay. I stood there silently, taking it all in. Part of me felt sorry for her, but most of me felt relief. Because in that moment, I realized she had built her life on lies for so long that when the truth finally came out, there was nothing left to hold her up. And as I walked out of that courtroom, I felt stronger than ever before, knowing that her games could never trap me again. As I stepped out into the bright afternoon sun, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. For so long, my life had felt heavy with anger and regret. I spent sleepless nights wondering how everything had gone so wrong between us, why the woman I loved turned into someone I couldn't even recognize. But now, as I stood on those courthouse steps, I realized it was finally over. The weight was gone. There was nothing left tying me to her lies or manipulations. My lawyer came up beside me, shaking my hand firmly. "You handled yourself well today," he said. I nodded with a small smile. "Thank you for helping me through this," I replied quietly. He patted my shoulder and left to handle his next case, leaving me alone for a moment to just breathe and take everything in. I watched people walking by, some holding hands, some laughing with friends, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was part of the world again instead of trapped in my own sadness. Behind me, I heard the courthouse doors open, and she walked out with her lawyer, her face pale and empty. She didn't look at me. She just kept her eyes down as she slowly walked to a waiting taxi. Part of me wanted to say something, anything, to close this chapter with words. But when I opened my mouth, no words came out. There was nothing left to say. Her life was her own now, just like mine was finally my own again. As I drove home, memories of our life together flashed in my mind. Our wedding day, when I truly believed she loved me. The nights I stayed up late working extra shifts to pay off her credit card bills. The day I found those texts that shattered everything. I thought about how close I was to giving up on myself back then, thinking maybe I deserved the pain. But sitting in that courtroom today showed me I didn't deserve any of it. I deserved peace. I deserved honesty. I deserved a life without fear of being used again. When I reached home, I sat in the driveway for a while, just watching the sky turn orange as the sun began to set. It felt like a sign that a dark chapter had ended and a new one was waiting to begin. I walked inside and made myself a cup of coffee, something simple but comforting. As I sipped it, I felt the warmth spread through me, calming my tired body. I picked up my phone and messaged my mom to tell her it was finally over. Her reply was instant. "I'm so proud of you. Come for dinner tomorrow. I'll make your favorite." I smiled, feeling tears prick at my eyes, but this time they were tears of relief. I realized I had spent so long feeling alone that I forgot there were still people who loved me for who I truly was. In that quiet kitchen, with the evening breeze flowing through the window, I promised myself I would never let anyone take away my peace again. Life is too short to be spent trapped in lies and games. Today taught me that the truth, no matter how painful, will always set you free in the end. And as the sun disappeared behind the trees, I felt ready to finally start living my life again, stronger and wiser than before.